Ever since Disney bought Fox back in 2019, people have been wondering when the X-Men will make their long-awaited MCU debut. I've spent years dreaming of what a fully fledged MCU would look like, as without the X-Men they've been missing out on a pretty huge corner of the universe. And while it's successful today, when the MCU first started, people forget that they took a huge gamble on characters like Iron Man and Captain America, as their biggest draws had always been Spider-Man and the X-Men. The Fox universe was always around with some extremely high highs and some of the lowest lows in the entire genre, but they never committed to the comic book aesthetic that the MCU did, as the creative team was afraid of the color yellow.
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Yes! Yes, I would prefer the yellow spandex. Just give it to me already. Oh my god. Just look at it. That looks good. I'm sorry. These movies, they get me very heated after they died a slow and painful death, with each one getting worse and worse until they made me sit through Dark Phoenix and the New Mutants. But that's in the past, and now we're getting closer to the team's arrival, with mutants starting to pop up throughout the MCU, and it begs the question on how they should introduce the team properly. When the MCU's version of the X-Men arrive, they need to be treated like the big deal they are. And that's why after Secret Wars, I think it's time for the Mutant Saga. But first, let's talk about how they shouldn't be introduced. There's a lot of popular fan theories and ideas out there, and I don't think all of them necessarily work. The one I've seen the most of is that they've been here the whole time, and Professor X keeps wiping the world's memory so that they can stay in hiding. It's a good explanation on the surface, but having the X-Men there the entire time and missing out on years of their stories would be a huge mistake. Also, when Charles' whole motivation is to show that humans and mutants can coexist, him choosing to hide them from the world doesn't make too much sense. Another one I've seen thrown around a lot is that the amount of radiation from Thanos, Hulk, and Tony's snaps caused the mutant genes to activate. It's a fun concept, but now that we're somehow 5 years past Endgame's release, God, that's upsetting. But it's been 5 years since that came out, and now it's way too late to just be like, oh yeah, mutants are here now, by the way. So I just don't think it's even worth exploring that idea, and then for characters like Magneto, it would completely erase his background with the Holocaust, which you just can't do. And don't even get me started on the idea that they're from a different universe, like maybe the X-Men 97 series, because that theory is just stupid and makes them complete outsiders in a world that still doesn't have widespread mutants. My solution for the MCU introduces the X-Men, though, does involve the multiverse, mainly that of Secret Wars. In the 2015 Secret Wars event, the good one, the whole thing culminates in the main 616 universe merging with the Ultimate Universe. Now, obviously the MCU can't do that, but this adaptation has the opportunity to merge the MCU with another universe. Perhaps that'll be that of the Fox universe that Deadpool and Wolverine is taking place in, if it doesn't get pruned like it deserves to be. They even had that Secret Wars tease in the trailer with the comic featuring in the background, so maybe that's hinting at this idea. But in case they don't want to go that route and that universe gets destroyed like it rightfully should, another contender is Earth 838 introduced in Multiverse of Madness. With both mutants and even Inhumans a thing in that universe, and then already being familiar with incursions, it would make a lot of sense for this to be the one that the MCU merges with. This would mean a soft reboot at the end of the film to basically say the mutants have existed on this Earth for the longest time, and allow the next decade of Marvel storytelling to take place in a world that has all of their characters from the beginning. Now, I don't think they should bring back Tony or Steve, especially since we have all these new characters who still deserve their time to shine, but just saying that mutants are here now and always have been is the logical way to go and allows us to see their full history on this new Earth. The best direction to take this new era of the MCU is with a heavy focus on the X-Men while still progressing some stories for the previous era's characters. If they want to do the team justice, one movie isn't going to be enough to tell their stories properly, so I think the best way to do things would be to introduce mutants in different projects and build up to the first X-Men movie, like how they did with Avengers in Phase 1. My ideal project for this would be a Disney Plus anthology series called The Mutants. Each hour-long episode would focus on a different character and show their origin, ending with Professor X recruiting them to be a part of the X-Men. Basically like the X-Men Origins idea, but it's actually good. I think this is a smart way to give each character time to breathe and not rush their stories, all while introducing a wide variety of them in one project. This way they're all set up for the future and able to appear in future movies where they can focus on building the team dynamic. As for who should be in this season, I think it's important to focus on the characters that the Fox universe didn't highlight enough. While it would be nice to do the initial team from the comics, First Class basically did their own take on that, and I want things here to feel new and refreshing. The biggest example of this is Cyclops. Despite featuring in every version of Fox's X-Men, they utterly wasted him in the most frustrating way. Poor James Marsden was perfectly cast and didn't get a fair chance to prove it. It was the equivalent of making Captain America a loser who doesn't do anything important. They make him play cuck to Jean and Logan's relationship and then kill him off in the most disrespectful way. It's just terrible. Cyclops is supposed to be the leader of the X-Men. He is that team and deserves to be the character with the most attention in the MCU. More than anyone else in the group, including Charles, Cyclops is committed to the mission of protecting both mutants and the world. His leadership skills are unmatched and can make the tough call without any hesitation. The character hasn't been portrayed in the way he should have been, and it's about time he's got done right. Whoever they cast should be one of the faces of the universe going forward and be treated like the big deal he is. We may have seen his origin before in live action, but an accurate version of Cyclops needs to be established in the MCU as one of the most significant characters. To say that the movie's fumbled Storm would be an understatement. She's one of the most powerful mutants out there and at one point was Marvel's most popular female character. A badass with or without her abilities, she should have been a mainstream pop culture icon, but but the people making those movies didn't understand the stories they were adapting. She's a character who's gone through a lot of changes and gotten more and more adept with each story, and it's long overdue for the MCU to remind people of that. After her origin in this series, there's even room for her to be in a potential third Black Panther movie. Perhaps after the Sauce reboot, they age up T'Challa Jr., and we could see that iconic romance played out in live action before she joins the X-Men. Regardless, it's essential that they show how crucial she is to the team. Nightcrawler, no, not the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, the blue teleporting guy, is one of the most complex X-Men and has a significant role in the team. Despite his devilish appearance, Kurt Wagner is a sweetheart and often a complete pacifist. He's the exact kind of mutant who the X-Men fight for. Just because he looks different doesn't mean that society should judge him, and his comforting personality shows humanity they have nothing to fear with mutants. He also featured in the Fox films, but they didn't go nearly in-depth enough with his religion or upbringing. The fact that he and Mystique shared several movies together in 2 different timelines and her being his mother was never brought up is still crazy to me. Nightcrawler is an insanely cool character and has a role in the team that nobody else can replace. He's such a bamf, and there's a lot of room for storytelling with him. Kitty Pryde has always been one of the most popular X-Men characters as she was introduced at the height of the team's popularity, so it only makes sense that with Fox used her as a plot device instead of an actual character, and then for some reason changed her powers to mental time travel. It's such a mess what they did with her. Elliot Page was some great casting and deserved better than having Kitty's introduction in the disaster that was The Last Stand. Kitty is often served as the point of view character for the team as a new member and was easy for kids to relate to. Plus, her intangibility powers are so cool and make for some great action scenes. As a Jewish public figure, Kitty also fits into 2 minority groups and is someone who's had to deal with unnecessary and cruel hate her entire life. She's one of the biggest symbols against discrimination, so it makes sense why she'd be a huge figure working with the X-Men. The more I've learned about him, the more I've found myself becoming a bigger fan of Iceman. He's a very cool character, and it's no good that the Fox universe didn't give him the respect he deserved. Oh, okay, no more ice puns, I'm sorry, please don't leave the video. Despite being one of only a handful of Omega-level mutants, he never got the chance to show how powerful or interesting he could be in live action. Bobby Drake has the ability to freeze literally anything. His internal struggle of having infinite potential with these abilities and having a hard time mastering them is a really interesting idea, and it could be really fun to explore throughout the saga as he gets more and more powerful. We're talking about someone who has literally made hell freeze over before. That is crazy to think about, and the fact that those movies barely give him any spotlight is insulting. I can't believe that they did him so dirty. He's also an incredibly likable character who would bring a lot of life to an otherwise pretty serious team. And on top of all that, Bobby is Marvel's most popular gay hero, and in a universe that is severely lacking that kind of representation, he would add a lot. He's a man of untapped potential, just waiting to be explored in live action, and one character I hope we don't have to wait long to see. And finally, Rogue is without a doubt my favorite member of the X-Men. I cannot tell you enough how annoying it is that the Fox movies made her feel so unimportant. Things started out great in the first movie where she was practically the co-lead, but from there on out her presence just got smaller and smaller until she was just getting her own cuts because they completely cut her out of the movie. And that needs to be changed. As someone with the ability to drain the powers and life force from someone with any skin-to-skin contact, it makes her both an extremely powerful and tragic character. The people who she drains stick with her and leave an echo in her mind, which takes a heavy toll on her. Never being able to touch someone and always having to stay distant and isolated can really hurt someone mentally, and that's exactly what it did to Rogue. She famously started out as a villain manipulated by Mystique into joining her Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but eventually switched sides and found a home with the X-Men. Rogue is a character who's only ever wanted to feel like she belongs somewhere, and should be one of the most pivotal members of the MCU's X-Men. After the series, it could also be a really good idea to introduce her in Captain Marvel 3, since she has a lot of infamous history absorbing Carol's powers. It's a nice way to expand on her character, create that dynamic between the two, and then set her up to be a force of nature down the line. But you're probably wondering what all of this leads to, and that's a fair question with an obvious answer. The team-up movie we deserve, which I would call the Uncanny X-Men. With the team already established, you can jump right into their story and concentrate on building out their dynamic and Professor X's mission. As for the villain, I think we need to save Magneto for further down the line. He should still exist, and they could even reference him living out on Krakoa or something, but the first villain needs to be someone we haven't seen before. And after being teased 3 separate times in the Fox movies, it's finally time for Mr. Sinister to make his live-action debut. He's one of the most over-the-top and campy villains out there, but is insanely threatening when it's time for business. It also helps that he has a long-standing obsession with Cyclops and can help to put an important spotlight on him. Sinister is the perfect villain at this point for the X-Men, as he not only ties into the themes of mutant rights with him torturing and experimenting on them, but his ability to create clones can make for some really fun action scenes. He's the kind of villain you just can't help but absolutely despise and would offer something new to the universe. I'm sure you noticed that I didn't really mention Wolverine up to this point, and that's because I don't think he should be associated with the mainline X-Men for a while. Those Fox movies were basically there to only make him look good, and he has enough of his own history that he should be able to take up his own little corner of the universe for a bit. He's way too popular of a character to just completely ignore and not introduce, but we've seen enough of him working with the team and taking up too much of the spotlight to where I think he should be on his own at the start. Set him up in the post-credit scene for that first movie, and then give him his own film before he properly meets up for them in a potential sequel. Perhaps this movie could focus on parts of Logan's origin that we somehow haven't seen before, like his his connection to the Canadian superhero team Alpha Flight. They tie into his origin heavily. It could be a great way to introduce a new team of mutants that we haven't seen before in a live action in a natural way, since Logan already has a connection to them, and offer some really new fun storytelling that we haven't seen before, which I think is important for this era of the X-Men. You want to be doing things that are new and fresh and exciting. Another potential idea that could integrate him into the universe would be adapting the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine run, which takes place in Japan. These two have a very special relationship together, as he acts as a father figure to her, and that dynamic could easily carry a movie. That would then set up him coming back to the States with Kitty and joining up with the X-Men down the line. One more project that is completely disconnected from everything else that I would really love to see is X-Factor Investigations. This might be a little harder to properly adapt this early, since it usually happens after the House of M event in the comics, but I think having a Disney Plus series that focuses on investigating different mutant-related crimes and mysteries could be a really interesting way to introduce new X-Men characters to the universe. Led by another one of my favorite characters, Multiple Man, it would be a great way to expand on the world building and show just how the mutant world is operated. New characters could be introduced here alongside Jamie as he goes around solving all these crimes. He's a fantastic character, as the collective memory of all his duplicates once rejoined, and could really lean into the mystery aspect of the series. Perhaps one of his duplicates has gone rogue, or he's having memory issues. It could create a real sense of drama and tension in the series. A Mutant of the Week type show is a really fun way to expand on the universe in a natural way and showcase one of the most underappreciated characters in this noir setting. There don't have to be universe-ending consequences, but this grounded series focusing on different characters is another great way to expand the universe. Oh, and one more thing. I think that the perfect way to end this saga is with the biggest possible event film they can do. Avengers vs. X-Men. Now, I'm not going to act like I've read this comic because I've heard the reviews and they aren't great, but I know the general idea of the story, and I think it would be a great way to culminate this saga and get everyone involved. If the MCU can loosely adapt One More Day and turn it into the best live-action Spider-Man movie, I have faith in the creatives to make this story work. With so many different people involved, it would be a challenge for sure, but if they lower the stakes away from the universe ending and just put two teams together like in Civil War, you could have an all-time classic on your hands. There's more pressure than ever on Marvel to get this right. The X-Men are without a doubt the most anticipated characters to join the universe in a long time, and with such little being said about them ever since the merger, people have been excited to see when they arrive. Now that we've been slowly starting to get little teases, it's only a matter of time until the team makes their MCU debut, and hopefully the most accurate adaptation to date. These characters are incredibly important to a lot of people, myself included, and have deserved better for years. Their role in social commentary can't be understated and would bring a lot of new ideas to the MCU. Now that we're so close, I can't help but get excited for what the future has to hold. It's no secret that the MCU had a pretty rough time last year with some hit or miss projects, but I truly think that its best days are ahead of it with the X-Men on the way. They can help to rejuvenate the general audience's interest in the universe and reminds people why they've been Marvel's most popular team for decades, as they're finally done justice. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you like this basic outline for what the Mutant Saga should be, and if you have any ideas of your own, make sure to let me know in the comments below. With the X-Men having so much history and excitement around them, I'm really interested to see what other people are thinking. If you're looking for something else to watch, you can click right here, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. If you don't, they're just going to do the Fox universe again, so please, I'm begging you to save us from that. I can't go through that again. It took too much out of me, alright? Please!